about? What do you want to talk about?
Maybe these are great.
I know, this is like so
These
much.
are good.
So much to talk
Just grab
about.
one.
What do you want to talk about? The cost of living?
I want to talk about this.
What do you want to talk about?
Tiny versus
What?
big rigs.
Oh,
Maneuverability,
okay.
accessibility.
Go ahead.
Just real quick.
You like talking about
I
rigs.
do. Well, yeah, it was my world. You know, she had her whole entire world inside the RV, while mine was also about a whole other bunch of factors that just she didn't have to consider, you know, and just we picked an RV that was under 35, like right at 35 feet, so that we could have a little bit better maneuverability. And my RV turned well. Like it had a great turning radius, and it made my life so much easier for maneuvering that thing around. And because of that, we were able to park on properties and in places that we otherwise would never have been able to access if we had the more standard 40-foot RV. And that made a huge difference. We've seen schoolie conversion guys also navigate with savage precision through a lot of areas that otherwise you're kind of stuck outside of it. But the benefits too that I got to see with people that had fifth wheels, man, y'all, fifth wheels got something going on for it. You know what I'm saying? They got the truck, and they got maneuverability that's on a different level, and the entirety of the fifth wheel is livable space. So we always had mad respect for the fifth wheel folks because they packed it in.
I think we just didn't do the truck and the fifth wheel thing because we didn't have a truck. Had we already had a nice truck that could have pulled a fifth wheel, we would have just been all in on the fifth wheel life and like not even missed a beat. But we would have had to purchase a truck and a fifth wheel, and that package together sometimes can be a little pricier, especially with the fifth wheels we really liked. Anyway, that's why we didn't go that route. And then we had the motorhome route, and we were like, okay, gas versus diesel, that's another big thing.
We chose diesel because we wanted to be able to, you know, haul lots of stuff and just the actual we love the mountains, and we wanted to be able to potentially drive over the Rockies on a regular basis. So the bigger things to me was, can I stop this RV when I'm going downhill? So the brakes was a huge deal too, and we chose a diesel pusher, you know, so the diesel was in the back. It was a tank. That thing was a tank. It was a great RV. It was a great choice. We started with something that wasn't a total lemon, and that made our RV experience mechanically, we weren't broke down. And like, that's foundationally different experience when you're doing an RV life or you're doing a travel trailer life, is if you're not broken down all the time. So if anything, that was like one of our best decisions that we made, was choosing a vehicle that was mechanically very sound. It had relatively low miles for the age that it was. And we bought it from the desert. Super fundamental too. Buy it if you can. If you're going to be even look down this road, if you can buy it from out west in the desert, highly recommend it, because the chances of mold and water damage are far lower down. So that's kind of what I want to say. We contemplated doing a real tiny. We contemplated very tiny. You know, we looked at some of the smaller sub 30-foot stuff, and I would have said yes
had we not had small. Had we not? Yes.
Before children.
Yes, before children. Absolutely, total yes. We also had 4 cats and a toddler. So I was like, no, that sounds like I want to go crazy in that tiny, tiny, tiny space.
It's also dogs and cats things and all that stuff was brutal. Lots of complications to where you can stay and where you're allowed to stay if you have dogs. Less so with the cats. But I was happy to get rid of all the cats as soon as physically possible. My life was so much better without them.
Litter boxes in a small space.
Stupid. I rhino-lined, rubber lined an entire storage base area underneath one of the table. Oh, it's just ridiculous. Ridiculous.
Crazy amounts of storage for that stinking litter box.
Stinking box of poop. It was a nightmare. I didn't recommend it.
And cats are also very territorial, and it's a very small space. So there's a lot of competing people for the territory.
But animals in the RV, we did just full disclosure though, we may have abandoned the cats, but y'all, we picked up turtles. We picked up all kinds of stuff over the years. We raised quail. We raised a bunch of quail. Someone after Passover was like, here's some quail.
And we had rabbits. All right, guys, we are getting ready to roll. Getting some tires. We got a rabbit down here with some quail. Sharing a cage. We've got a heat lamp with some new chickies, new quail here. We've got quite a lot of critters traveling with us this time around. You got your chick?
It's on the turtle.
I will. We got chicks and chicks.
Crushed electrical cords.
Oh my gosh. Oh, man.
That's why I was getting so hot.
And Rose. Where's Rose? Where's little Rose? Oh, I can't even see Rose. Rose, where are you? Where's Rose? Oh, can you spot the turtle? There's Rose. Snapping turtle. Yes, she had to even come too. So we've got all kinds of critters rolling with the Reynolds.
Got my little chicken.
Got our little chickies rolling with the Reynolds. And we had rabbits.
Good rabbits.
We had rabbits while we were traveling. So anyway, we
What
weren't
other flighty creature?
okay. We weren't planning on having rabbits. Okay, but then while we were at one of the homesteads where we were working on a farm, we got the rabbits, and then we ended up going back on the road, and we didn't want to part with the rabbits. They were our girls' rabbits, and anyway, but it definitely complicated our life. So moving in the tiny space with animals was a little cray. I would not recommend it. If you have animals, you can make it work. It just might add some added challenges. We had a girl that we used to live across the street from, and she actually developed some kind of app and sensor for your motorhome to detect, because, you know, if you have to park your motorhome somewhere during the summer and then you're leaving, sometimes different things can happen and your AC could go out, or, you know, whatever, and you have a pet that's stuck in a really, really, really hot motorhome, you know, or whatever. So anyway, she had some kind of app thing to help with that. But anyway, there's just extra considerations when you have pets. You know, you have to consider that, you know, if you're ever going to leave your rig, because it does get very hot in there. If you're boondocking, like, you can't just, I mean, you're going to have to leave it.
It gets super hot.
Even with the windows open, it's
so hot. And
can.
It's so hot. It is so fast to just sit in your car. Like, understand, it's pretty similar. It's not that foreign. Yeah. It's pretty similar. So let's dive into something else here.
See. Oh, I just said going where Yah leads you versus going where you want to go. So we definitely on the road, we definitely tried to, before we were going to go somewhere, just pray and let the Father lead us, you know, and lead us through peace. And, you know, some areas we'd stay for 3 months, and then some areas we'd stay for a couple nights, and we're like, let's leave. This is not, this is not where we want to be. But he was so faithful to just lead us around, and that whole time on the road. And, you know, we're just learning to press into him and to just trust him, you know, even when things felt so uncertain, you know, and we weren't sure where we were going to go. And, you know, living on the road, another thing I was going to talk about is the cost of living, income on the road, and like what to do. So if you're wanting to live a mobile lifestyle, you have to think about those things, like, how are you going to make income on the road? For us, we had kind of some passive income, but we also had we were doing ministry pretty full time, and then we were also you know, still needing some other way that we could sustain this lifestyle, because, you know, I think sometimes people think, oh, if I live tiny, if I live mobile and I'm traveling around, you know, outside of the cost of gas and food, like, it should be pretty free, and that's just not true at all. And you know, we had to have we had motorhome insurance, you know, which was actually pretty expensive. We also had, well, some of the first year we didn't have a tow vehicle behind our car, which was a mistake. If we had it to do over, we would have definitely got a dolly and had a tow vehicle behind our motorhome, so we could detach and then take our car and go into the city for groceries or whatever we're needing. And instead, that first year, we had to take our motorhome and bring in the slides, bring up the jacks, and drive in to go to Target or to Walmart or whatever, you know, the grocery store. Like, that was kind of crazy. That was crazy. But anyway, the tow vehicle made a huge difference. But there just is, you know, you just have to consider these things, because it definitely is more expensive than you could have ever dreamed. RV parks and just the nightly stays at either RV parks or campgrounds or whatever, that is so expensive.
And maybe a bummer later. Yeah. This is the heaviest rain I've driven in inside a campground. Fantastic. Perfect way.
You got a shower.
I got a great shower. You know what? Living water showers are just as biblical as living water baptisms. Go mikvah in the rain. I did. I sat out there and was starting to sing a song called Singing in the Rain. And I was like, man, what is this nonsense coming out of my mouth? And then I just started literally singing praises to him. And I remembered the Psalms of David. And I talked about the majesty of the Creator who made rain. Warm rain, granted. This is wonderful, warm, hot, humid rain. So you know what? It is a shower. This is the authentic shower. Before garbage pressurized water deceived us all into thinking we were taking showers when we stepped into chlorine and fluoride. You know what we're in now? Living rain. It's salty kind of because I'm near the ocean. But now I'm alive and invigorated.
And Busty's getting a bath.
And my house just got a power washing from the hands of Yahweh himself.
How nice. It is so expensive just to have hookups, okay? And then, like Nathan's saying, unless you're wanting to park in Walmarts all the time, or at Cracker Barrels or whatever. And, you know, once you're traveling for a while and you do live like that, like
it wears off.
Living in a Walmart parking lot gets old, okay? It gets sketchy. You have to be very on guard because you don't know who's pulling in and who's going to park next to you and who's going to be outside your vehicle or your home while you're sleeping at night, and you hear weird things. And I don't know, sometimes it's just a very on guard, a very on guard and vulnerable thing to park in a parking lot overnight and sleep there. It doesn't mean you can't do it or that you shouldn't do it. It just means you have a different heightened
awareness.
Yes, awareness while you're in those places and while you're doing that while you're traveling, and that can add stress. And so I think doing that kind of living, boondocking like that, can add stress and make it a lot less enjoyable of a life on the road. And so you do kind of have to balance out, at least that's what we did. We would balance out boondocking with overnight stays, a couple overnight stays at a campground, because you do want running water and you do want to be able to take a shower and not use your whole tank, because when you're boondocking, you have to really conserve water with dishes. You're like literally like fill a dish pan, or a dish basin with the hot soapy water, and you have another rinse bucket. And I mean, they're very minimal amounts of water, or maybe you just soap all your dishes up and then you just rinse them really quick, but you're trying to use as much or as little amount of water as possible. These are all just considerations. But if you think you're going to get an RV living because it's going to be more free or reasonably free, I'm here to tell you that that's just not the case. And that was actually a huge wake-up call for us too, because I think we were under the impression that it was going to be significantly cheaper. And when we started tallying up the bills of, our different stays, different places, and gas, and we still had cell phone bills, we still had insurance, and whatever, just different little bills and things. Like it wasn't as free as we were hoping, I guess.
Oh, yeah.
And when you actually crunch the math, I was like, this is literally like the same amount we were paying for our mortgage when we had a house. So for what it's worth, it definitely, yeah.
That is kind of what led us onto the road of volunteering on farms and doing like work trade programs, woofing, WWOOF, and we created a profile and began to search for places where we could stay somewhere. They provide hookups and food or produce from the farm, and we trade some labor on the farm. And that was where so much of our experience ended up centering around that over the years, because we now got opportunities to learn a way of life that we really didn't know much about. And it also connected us to a community of people that were just passionate about similar things and eating really well and taking care of their bodies and raising good food and raising their families with them. And it was a beautiful little opening to
all fellow travelers too.
All people that get it, y'all. Like, if you've never done the sojourning thing, if you've never done the traveler's life, you can't comprehend it. And you really also understand hospitality. Like, if you've never gone into that experience in life, you can't understand what the needs of a sojourner really are like, because you've never been so exhausted and just wanting laundry, like things that if you're planted and you have a home and you have four walls with regular electricity and water, and there's so many things that aren't even on your radar to consider that you take for granted, like a flushing toilet. There's people that are traveling on a regular basis that stuff is literally eating them alive, and it's like they are scrambling to try to take care of that stuff all the time. They are always trying to find basic things, trying to get water, like trying to get laundry. Laundry was a big challenge, because if we could go back and change one of the things, we would put in one of those miniature 2-in-1 washer dryer things. That would have been one of the best things we could have put in. We should have put in right away, because it was very difficult. We did so much laundromat life. We spent a lot of time and money at laundromats, a lot of it for many, many years.
Yes, that's another cost.
It's a whole other thing. You're like, I just spent $80 this month at laundromats.
Yeah.
That wasn't really on my radar, but it's definitely an essential, especially as the children start having blowouts on a regular basis, and there's just poop spectacular things going on all the time. But that's one of those things we just want to share with you, because laundry is a challenge on the road, and there's not an easy way around it. They do make these cool washers that are tiny and compact, and you just keep doing. One of our friends did 5 loads every day. They did 5 loads of laundry every day, mini loads every day.
Yeah, I felt like when we would be traveling and we'd go stay with somebody, like they would feed us the most amazing meals. And, you know, after traveling too, you realize, like, you know, like anyone on a road trip, you know, when you're traveling through, it's hard to cook meals, you know, and especially if you're boondocking, you're trying to conserve your fuel, you're trying to conserve your propane, you're trying to conserve your electricity and your batteries, and you're trying to conserve your water. And so you're trying to just cook efficiently, you know, but sometimes you can't cook these big elaborate meals and whatnot. And so when people would host us, they were just so generous, and just like, like, you just feel so unbelievably loved, like, as a weary traveler, to like come into a nice warm home that's brightly lit with like the most amazing food and fresh towels, and go shower, and like, let's throw your laundry in, and like, let's hook up your rig to power and water, and like, just like, oh, you just felt like just like the most amazing, just like refuge. You just like felt this like safety and like home, like, oh, just that feeling of home, like, you know, when you're visiting your parents and you've been out and you haven't seen them for a very long time, and then you come home, that feeling of just like being like loved by your parents. That's what it is like to love a sojourner. It's like going home to mom and dad, you know, like, come on in, get a big hug, get a warm meal, get a warm shower, and we'll do your laundry for you. They're so sweet.
Chelsea has epic parents.
But anyway, and then Woof, like the world, what was it? Woof, Worldwide Organization of Organic Farms. Like,
we always get it wrong, so
like,
never trust us on that
it's
one.
something like that. Look it up. WWOOF. And anyway, that we came across some other people who woofed on a farm with us briefly, and they ended up telling us about this, and we're like, I think that sounds like a great idea. And you know what, it is a great option for if you're trying to save money while you are traveling, because we were looking for ways to save money, and a lot of these farms are amazing. They have amazing hosts. You're living in some of the most beautiful rural farm areas all over the country, in the mountains, you know, on the plains, like anywhere and everywhere in between, by the, you know, in Florida, like wherever it is. And just, it was such an amazing and enriching experience, because we got to park in some of the most beautiful places. Like, have you ever seen those, you know, you're driving down the road and you're like, oh, look at that property, it's just like pristine, it's just so beautiful, I would love to live there. And it's like, we gotta live there, we gotta live on like a lot of those properties, just like these beautiful farms, and they're just like little Angettis back in there. And like, you just get to park there, and you get to park for free. And then a lot of them had hookups, power and water. And then sometimes they would help you out with staples for the week. Like, you know, some of your additional, you know, maybe some cheese and some milk, or some, you know, other staples from Costco or whatever. And then you get the fresh produce from the farm too. So sometimes it was chicken eggs, sometimes it was this, you know, or, you know, sometimes it was, the vegetables, you know, or the fruit or whatever. And just, it was wonderful. It was wonderful. So, and you can live pretty free when you have a free place to park, because like I said, one of the biggest expenses when you're traveling is those campgrounds and the RV parks and the RV, you know, wherever you're staying. I mean, if you can find a campground, some campgrounds were epic that we found. They had full hookups down in Arizona, or was it Arizona and New Mexico? We found like full Joni, credit to Joni Wegman. She found these sites that were amazing, and they were like $15 a night for full hookups. And I mean, that's just like unheard of. It was more like $45 a night or $50 a night, and $50 a night. I mean, that adds up, y'all. That gets expensive. Oh, we could talk about things really quick that made RV life easier for you.
Tell me.
Okay. I just might read through some of my things. Oh, make your home your own. Make your RV your own. So we removed the couch. We converted the closet. We removed the couch. We added some comfortable chairs, like rocking chairs and comfy recliner chairs that were normal.
I like to lay flat.
Normal furniture.
Very important. I want to lay flat.
You don't have to have RV furniture that's mounted to the floor. Okay. You don't have to do that.
It all comes out. You can use a Sawzall when in doubt.
That's right. So
I cut my entire fridge out with the Sawzall. Cut that thing straight in half, son.
Make it your own. I mean, we put shelves everywhere. We just put all these little shelves. Go vertical with your space. But there was this weird little picture of like an olive oil bottle, and it was like not colors that I liked or whatever. So I just took that off the wall and put something else up and painted the frame and like make it your own space. We put linen curtains in there. We converted the back bedroom sliding. We took out the sliding glass doors. We didn't want the glass doors. We took the sliding glass doors out, and then we had the closet space, and we ended up making bunk beds in there for our girls as our family grew over time. Even though it's a tiny space, you can still change it. It's like the transformer, the thing that can just keep changing and shifting around. You can do so much with a tiny space. You just have to have the creative eye for it. So anyway, make it your own. Let's see. Oh, we loved the swivel recliners in the front. Oh, yeah. That was amazing.
That was nice for hosting other people too. We packed a bunch of people in there at times. Yeah. And that was really fun.
They were our driver chairs going down the road, but then we could swivel them around and they would become the living room when you'd pop out the slides. We loved, if you have to have slides, we loved the opposing slides because it made your tiny living space feel huge. If we had it to do over again, though, we
would not do slides because water ingress is like inevitable. They leak. They leaky. They're like a diaper that just will not hold it in, son. There is no amount of inevitability that's there. You can't stop it. Water's coming in eventually. Through every slide we've ever seen, there's water damage, like guaranteed. So we say that because we lost our home to mold and understand it causes catastrophic problems when water gets in your walls. And like most houses don't have walls that go sideways and become rectangles and have water because you're not level. That's a super important thing. It's almost impossible to be perfectly level unless you're parked on concrete or asphalt. And even that's not always level, So that's why I go back to the leveling jacks, y'all. We're critical. Okay. But no, if we could, man, I'm telling you, tour buses, like buses that were made to travel 500,000 miles or 1,000,000 miles. Those things are made to be on the road and stay on the road and do those kinds of conversions are far more advantageous, or even schoolies in that regard, because you're not dealing with those same problems. Now, schoolies have different challenges because the roof height, if you're a tall person, even remotely, you can't even stand upright all the way in those schoolies. And there's all kinds of other challenges with all the windows and all the amount of just tin can effect inside a school bus. Every one of them's got their own different challenges, their pros and their cons. We did not do the travel trailer, so we can't really speak to too much of that, nor did we do the fifth wheel. If we would look at it again, I would love to do, I would lean towards, I like the fifth wheel idea or a tour bus. Really, it's just the tour bus kind of style. If you're going to go with an all-in-one style of driving, I just can't even fathom it with all the children now.
Or the Airstreams. We really like the Airstreams.
We like the idea of them.
We're
not talking about living full-time in them anymore. Like, that's just...
We can't really wrap our mind around it. We would if y'all called us to that, but...
We would consent.
So we talked about the Oster convection toaster oven already. We talked about the self-leveling auto jack.
Oh, hold on, I got one for you. All of the attachments for hooking onto power of various kinds. Those are super important. All the dongles, all the little things that allow you to go from 50 amp to 30 amp, from 30 amp to 110, all that stuff, the splitters, the extension cords, the RV, the hoses. Oh my gosh, my world revolved around hoses. Because sometimes I had to go get water from 150 feet away. Like, that's a reality. And like, my life revolved around hoses, high quality hoses, and then all the adapters that go with hoses. You know what I'm saying? Like, if you're going to do the RV life, you got to understand you're going to be somewhat going to need to do electrical work. You're going to need to understand basics of gas. You're going to need to understand stuff about plumbing. You're like, there's a whole other level of like, my tool chest when I went into it was like 5 things. And I was like, that's about all I'm ready to do, you know? And it was like, by the end of it, I had tool chests, like chests of tools because of all the things that I had to do. But you know what? It helped me to also learn and overcome my avoidance of dealing with those issues. And on that side of it, man, I was ticked a lot of times doing those projects, you know, like where I was on the underside of the RV and just grinding all of the rust off of it and then putting on, what was that, naval jelly to arrest the rust, and then to spray and paint the whole thing on the underside. That was savage work, you know. But those jacks, man, my whole house came up, son. Like, it was so epic to have jacks. I just felt like a stud every time I used them. I'm like, yeah, that's right.
We parked in so many people's driveways that were like super steep, but we had those jacks and it could go and like make us pretty level.
Oh man, my whole entire back end would be hanging off like a stinking fish out of a boat. It was dangling. You know, all of the RV things are like, don't do that. I'm like, I don't care. I own it. I have to, you know. But that change, I'm telling you, the jacks, bros, the jacks.
We also quickly realized how awful a black tank is. Awful. And if you're trying to live boondocky and more free, the black tank is nasty, y'all. So composting toilet was such a blessing. It was a blessing.
You can make them super easy and cheap. Yeah. You don't have to get a complicated one. We got like a $900 like made for boats, sailboat style, like what was that thing called? I don't know. It was okay. I mean, it was nice, kind of. It had some quirks to it though. Like, our friends showed us their bucket version, and I was like, this is so much more simple. They had one that separated their pee from their poop, and you could change it out with like a gallon jug with just the pee bucket. Nothing fancy. 5-gallon bucket. I was like, this is simple.
I definitely overflowed the urine bucket all the time.
That was the trade. But you know what was better was not having my black tank tell me that it's full, and I don't want to go pay to dump my poop, you know?
You don't want that over.
No, man, just let her buck, bro. Pull the piston, pull the handle, pull that black handle, and just let it rock, son. Fertilize the fields. I did it all the time. You betcha. I'll admit to it now. You got nothing on camera. I'm just saying. I didn't care, man. You get to a place where you're so desperate, you're like, it's full.
And you're
it's
out in the middle of the
full. There ain't no way. That thing's got to go. It's got to go.
Pocket doors were amazing. Fantastic fans. Money. Oh my gosh. When we were down in Texas, we had all the windows open because it was hot in there, of course. And we were trying to get that ocean breeze. We were down by the ocean. And for some reason, there was hornets galore. And they were trying to get in every little nook and cranny, but they couldn't get in. And I even had the vent go up with the fantastic fan. It goes, ooh, and it has a little bug, what am I trying to say? Screen. It had a bug screen, and the fan is still rocking in there. And so we were totally comfortable in there, and there's all these hornets trying to get in, and they couldn't even get in. Anyway, the fantastic fan.
It murdered many of them. It was fantastic.
It's fantastic. Wool rugs.
Oh yeah.
Space heaters.
Nice.
Dehumidifiers. If you don't need these things, well, you still need space heaters, okay? Because you're gonna still, okay. If you're a sojourner, you must migrate like the birds. You must. You must migrate like the birds, okay? You go north in the summer, you go south in the winter. You must migrate like them. If you choose to not, or you're slow about it, you're going to run into trouble, son. You're going to need that dehumidifier because, you know, if it starts getting cold and it's warm in your RV and you're running that propane heat and it's cold outside, you're going to start getting condensation like crazy in that son of a gun. And you're going to need dehumidifiers, okay? And if it's getting cold, you're going to need space heaters. And if it's getting cold or hot, you're going to need wool rugs. We had wool rugs by the end. We had wool rugs.
The whole entire floor.
Lining the entire floor of the motorhome. And it kept it cooler in the summer and warm and toasty in the winter. It was an extra layer of insulation. It was amazing.
It was critical. Fighting mice. Let me just go for a second on random, like my tangent. That reminds me. Listen, a lot of my life also revolved around killing things, which is fantastic. But I had to fight mice and varmint of all kinds of different pests over the years. And because we were parking, when you're just parking in some random field, you got the field mice, and one of them wrecked my RV. It chewed so
Goliath.
many. Yeah, he had a name. I ended him. Dude, somebody taught me how to kill something very effectively because they dealt with rats in Texas. And they're like, oh, no, you're going to buy a regular mousetrap and then you're going to tap a bunch of nails on the other side of it. So then when it comes down upon thy head, it kills him. And I was like, oh, I've been trying to kill this thing for a long time. But mice love to go into the RV space, in your storage areas in particular, where all of your conduit is for your wiring, and they build their nests, right? They find your stash of toilet paper and your PT, your paper towel, and then they just plunder that and they make nests and everything else, man. I went through so many different rat traps and mouse traps over the years, and I found the ones with those crazy savage teeth. I had to fight mice regularly everywhere we went. And that was like a serious thing because they chewed my hot water, like the electric lines that turned on my hot water heater. Like we were
the awning.
Oh man, the awning. One of the best and the most challenging things about it. The awning was amazing because it gave us this shade shield because it's so hot. The sun is turning up, you guys. You got to understand, geoengineering is real. Go to Dane Wigington, geoengineeringwatch.org. Just tuck it away. The sun is melting stuff. Like, understand, like, growing up in my life, I never saw plastic bike helmets melting into puddles. Yep. Did you? I'm just saying, like trash cans on the side of the road melting into oblivion. Well, when you're living in like a small space like that, oh my gosh, is it savage. So any level of shade, the awning was epic, but the awning had difficulty because that stinking squirrel wrecked the wiring for that thing. And I was never able to get it to work quite right ever again. And that
we had to bring it out manually every time.
That's because I just pulled the whole thing. I gave up. Welcome to Nathan. He gave up at that point in his life when it came to the awning and the electrical stuff. You know, I was like, we'll just do it manually. And so then we had to have long staffs that we would fit onto that thing and pull it in and out. And one time I failed to secure and zip tie. Oh my gosh. This was about at the end of it all. You know what I'm saying? When I was like stinking done with road life. It was unraveling. And we went to get our windshield fell out. You know, that can happen. That's a thing. So just check this out. Okay. Your windshields can fall out of your RVs and they're like, it's sinking. And they're like, why? They're like, well, all of this, it's heavy and everything's melting. And I'm like, great. So my RV windshield was melting and then it came out. It literally like popped out and then had this gap and I was freaking out because bugs were coming in and it was hot. I battled so much heat in that thing. It was like a death trap box of horrors for me at times. It was savage. And anyways, we went to get this RV windshield put back in. And on our drive back, we're going through these ridiculous Ozark hauler switchbacks. You know what I'm saying? And that thing shot open, big thing, like 15-foot awning while I'm driving.
Him and I was like, and I'm like trying to grab my cell phone as we're going through these curves. And I'm trying to
just drive and stale.
I'm trying to call him, desperately trying to call him because I'm like, does he know the awning's out? The awning's out.
Missing trees by inches, and I pull over to the one spot that had a tiny little pull off. And I was like, oh my gosh, like, how do I get it in? It's like 10 feet up in the air, and I'm like, oh my gosh, maybe Chelsea will pull up in here. And I was like, I need somebody who can get me up there. And, I found some loggers. I ran into the forest and found loggers and they thought I was a joke. I'm a character of a creature when I pop out of into anybody's world. They're like, I'm like, well, hello, and they're like some Lindenite freak show guys just rolling into a bunch of logging community. Odd. Either way, I was like, convince them, please come help me. And they thought it was a joke. They sincerely thought it was a prank. And they came out and sure enough, there's this giant RV with Linden Railroad stickers on it. And the guy's awning's just sticking out on the side of the road. And I'm like, can you please help me? I need to roll that thing in manually. And they're like, all right. Needless to say, praise y'all for Ozarks. Good people out there too. Bunch of savage psychos too, but good people otherwise.
A few more things. Oh, a heated water hose. Once again, if you're getting caught in like we did at the Laura Ingalls campground when it was negative 20. Was it negative 20?
Yeah, with wind chills.
Oh my gosh, that's so cold. That's very cold to be in an RV, let me tell you. But heated water hose will help you to be able to still have water in your rig because you still need to have water pumping through your pipes and going to your sink and stuff. Let's see. Oh, M3 hooks. Those M3 hooks are amazing. I just have to give a shout out to the M3 hooks. They are everywhere in the RV and they just were amazing. We also have these ones from Amazon. They were called the 13-pound hook. Those things were awesome. And they were just a little plastic sticker with like a metal hook. We use those for everything, for coat hooks. And I mean, you need hooks all over the tiny home. It's amazing. And then I just said things, things that help collapse down, like collapsible colanders and collapsible laundry baskets and collapsible, I don't know, whatever other things you got.
Pages. This is going to be a multi-part series.
It was 4.5 years in a motorhome. There was a lot to say.
I like your style.
Okay, how about hard lessons? We've already gone over a lot of hard lessons. We'll move on to hard lessons learned.
Don't drive onto grass lawns.
Don't drive onto the grass and don't get stuck in the mud.
Our air conditioner drain.
Hold on. Surge protector.
You just screamed. Say it again gently.
I'm so sorry. Surge protector. You must have a surge protector.
Yeah. That was a very costly mistake. We plugged in. Sometimes campgrounds are wired wrong. That's a thing. Sometimes they're wired wrong. And another time we were just plugged into our friend's place and we had in the Appalachian Mountains, there are power surges and they destroy stuff. We've lost a lot of things to power surges in the Appalachian Mountains. Thousands and thousands of dollars of stuff we have fried. It's a serious thing. Power surges are nuts. And they will wreck. They wrecked out our air conditioner, our fridge in one power surge. It was bad. It was bad. And that was like a $6,000 fridge. So anyways,
electric fridge.
It was amazing. 120, 12 volt, 120 or 12 and propane. It was an amazing Dometic fridge. Fantastic. Well, it was a dream until it was a piece of junk, and then we had to cut it out with a Sawzall. So there was that. But hey, great point, honey. Don't have your dash air conditioner mounted above your 8,000 watt generator. Yep. We fried our generator one time because the drain valve, the drain pipe tubing drained directly onto the top of the generator, inside the space that's supposed to be safe. Fried that. That was a $3,000 just kick in the teeth. So you're welcome. Thank you.
Don't trust Google Maps.
Never trust Google Maps. Seriously, nor anytime it gives you a suggestion on how long this trip is about to take you, you can double it immediately. Double it instantly.
We talked about a lot of these things. Always have a spotter. Always have a spotter outside the RV when you are moving that vehicle. It is too large of a vehicle and you cannot possibly, even with your backup camera, see every corner of your motorhome. And there have been so many times like, okay, so I go to the back and I flag Nathan back and he's backing up, right? And then he's got to kind of turn and maneuver. And there's big trees in these campgrounds that you're trying to slither through. Okay. This is a big rig. And so you would kind of back him out and then you'd stop him and then you'd go around front and you'd check that corner and then you'd check the blind corner. And anyway, it's constantly walking around the RV, like as you're backing it up. Oh, wait, hold on. Let me make sure you cleared that tree up there. Oh, let me make sure you cleared that rock. Essential. It saved our rig time and time and time again when we did that. So anyway, that is a must.
It is. I like your BLM land. We did use BLM land at times.
It says warning.
Except there was a strong warning because sometimes you go onto the BLM land and you get there and it requires off-roading abilities. And we damaged our RV a little bit one time.
Our tires.
One tire. It never blew up. Praise Yah. What a miracle. Our tires never destroyed and self-immolated on the side of the road. It could have happened. Our tires were not in great shape. Let me just say it that way. They weren't. It's a big investment. They're like, it's the most important thing on your rig. And I'm like, man, so is my faith. So we're going to carry on here, son. But anyways, BLM land was a good boondockers option. That was great for us. Towing car.
No, it says
catastrophes.
Towing catastrophes. Do you want to talk about towing catastrophes?
I had two pretty strong ones.
We've had like 3.
I'm sure I've already blacked out thinking about the other one. What?
It's okay. Just tell.
I'll tell you one of mine. Getting my RV onto the dolly one time, I totally ripped the front end of my bumper off because I had somebody else try to help me to mount my dolly, and I trusted that they had done it properly, and I did not verify. Trust and verify. My mistake. On that regard, I was totally delirious at the end of Occult, savage wrecked, and that was the time. That was the one time I failed to secure my tow hitch to my vehicle properly, to the RV properly, and that caused some damage to the old nerdy Gertie, our little car. But
you almost got crushed that other time.
That was the intro trip. Yep. week one, I had her dad mount the vehicle onto the dolly the first time. I had no idea how to take it off. He hooked it up in Colorado, and I drove to Kentucky. And I'm like, we're going caving, baby. I'm going to take you into the underworld. It's going to be so fun and romantic. And we got to the campground. There was nobody there. And we pulled into our spot. And we're like, this is great. I'll just go back there and I'll just, take the hitch off. Just take the hitch off. Terrible mistake. So we were on a slight downhill and I took the hitch off, and the entire car and on the dolly began to just come down into the RV. And so I just like pressed my back against the bumper of the car and just pushed down with my legs and was just pushing as hard as I could as it was trying to just crush me. And I was like screaming, Jesse, help, help. And the RV is running this giant diesel engine, and I'm trying to scream so that little microphone can hear me. And I'm just out there for minutes, just trying not to get pinned to death between my RV and the car, and just praying for strength. And my legs are just shaking like, look. So I'm trying to just leg press the entire weight of the vehicle and the dolly off of this thing. And I screamed and screamed and screamed. And eventually she saved my life.
I finally went out there. I think I was like, what's taking your dad so long? And I went out there and I was like, oh my gosh. He's like, get in the car, hit the e-brake. I was like, oh my gosh.
So do that right. Do that right. The other time is when I jackknifed trying to get out of a Florida nightmare, when we were going to hit trees, and I pulled into that driveway and we're trying to back that thing out. And she was trying to tell me that I'm jackknifing, and I was like, I don't care. There's a line of just traffic, just this massive line of traffic that I'm stopping. And we were just jackknifed terribly. So
another time we had the, what are they? Those plates that you would drive up on.
Yeah, we almost killed people.
Yeah, so we had to load them. They loaded in the middle
Steel
of the
ramps.
dolly. The steel ramps loaded in the middle of the dolly, and we had a tiny little bolt that would secure, a little knob, and that would secure those in place so they wouldn't shift around while you're driving, right? Well, that bolt, Nathan cranked it down as hard as it would go, but it's like it was a very shallow bolt. Do you remember that?
No, the bolt sheared off.
Oh,
where it was welded to the frame, it sheared off when I went over a bridge in Tennessee. And our friends were following us in a fifth wheel at the time. And those plates, they watched them come flying off. Okay, so one of them went down and into my car. They bounced under the car, smashed up on the underside, and then blew the tire out, the back tire on my car out. And then those plates tumbled through the air. And our friend said they were watching them coming towards their windshield, right? And they were just prayed. And they literally saw it just move out of the way. And they were like, oh my gosh.
They believe an angel just
saved their life.
Moved him out of the way.
Because that was like a game ender, son. Game over. So those plates, that ended up being like a 45-minute, like, oh my gosh, we got to go try to find these steel ramps because I can't get the RV. I can't get the car back on and then replace the tire. But they had a scout vehicle, so they were able to go into the city and resolve that. Stowing vehicles
can be a big deal. It's a big deal.
That's why I didn't want to do it our first year. I just wanted to get good at driving this giant house thing.
But it's worth it to have an extra car. So
she was the passenger. You understand the difference here?
Oh, don't leave faucets running or dripping while you're not hooked up to sewer, because what happens if the faucet is dripping? So we were going to bed one night.
Mistake, not mine.
Not even mine. It's one of the children.
She blames it on the children.
No, it was one of the children. We were parked in a campground in Missouri again. Do you notice?
Misery.
You notice the theme here. A lot of these things happen in Missouri. We're parked at a campground where there's no sewer hookups. So every night we have to go out and open up our gray tank and let our gray tank flow open.
Just under the RV, just there. And all our neighbors did the same thing. Just this giant cesspool of disgustingness.
Gray water flowing down. It was disgusting. But anyway, we would do this. Everyone would do it at night because opening the gray tank stank and it was disgusting. So anyway, we would do it every night, but we were out at the campfire, we were playing worship music and just having an amazing time. And anyway, I went in to put the children down to bed, and they brushed their teeth and everything, and I was like, okay, get in bed, girls. Got them in bed. I didn't check to make sure they turned off the sink after they got done brushing their teeth. But clearly one of the faucets got left on, and I went back out to the campfire, and we're sitting right outside our motorhome. And anyway, and then a couple hours later, I think I went back inside for something, and I walk inside our motorhome to water in the entryway. And I was like, water? Something's leaking? Walked up into our motorhome. It was like a river was flowing downhill, down towards our entrance of our motorhome, but down the whole hallway of the entire motorhome was saturated in water. The entire floor of the entire motorhome was saturated in water. And I was like, oh my gosh. And I just walked further back because I'm trying to figure out what the water's coming from. And I open the hallway and I hear water running. And it's the sink faucet. And I see the sink is full, the water spilling, cascading over the counter onto the floor like a waterfall. And I'm just like, oh, and the children are sleeping. So I'm like, oh my gosh, we're just going to have to wake them up. And I ran outside. I'm like, I turned off the sink, but then I ran outside and got Nathan. And anyway,
it was my mistake. I should have opened that gray tank up. I take ownership for that.
It was full and we didn't open that to relieve it. But anyway, this is also when you're boondocking and you're not hooked. Well, actually, we were hooked up to water, but not hooked up to sewer. Yeah. And that was a huge problem and such a big risk. And clearly,
this happened a bunch too. This was a dilemma.
That night.
That happened a fair amount of times with the dilemma of just not being able to dump your gray water, except you have to wait till nighttime, right? And so like, that's why we didn't shower very often either, because you weren't always hooked up. You didn't always have unlimited water. You didn't have unlimited power, and you didn't have the ability to just drain that thing. You know, these are like real life things. This is the stuff that just eats up your mental resources in this traveler's life. You're like, I have to make a mental note that I must open the tanks. Like that kind of stuff. It's like it just chews on your mind in ways that's just not your norm. And once you're out of that life, you're just like, oh, it's so nice not to have to think about emptying the pee bucket 3 times a day right now. Just nice. There are all these little things that just make a big difference.
Another one was another hard lesson learned was not traveling at night, because it's if you can help it. Well,
I love driving at night so that everyone could sleep and I could drive more.
But if you're driving to an area you've never been and you're driving, like, remember that campground? We were trying to find it in the middle of the night in Florida again. Darn Florida, man. Florida roads, if you cannot see properly, there's just so many trees and low-hanging branches. It is so scary. It is so scary, especially at night. It was crazy. Let's see what else. Oh, our other advice would be, if you have small children, don't travel longer. This became a rule for our family. Obviously, everybody's got different children. You have children, different ages and stuff, and you have to do what you will realize what your window is for travel for your family. But a comfortable window that we would not like to exceed was 6 hours was our like max travel day with the small children, because it's just exhausting. It's exhausting. It's exhausting traveling with small children. It just is, whether you're in a motorhome or you're in a car. I mean, yes, you can technically drive through and you can make your lunch in the back. And if your children have to go to the bathroom, they can go to the bathroom while you're traveling, which is great. But you're still going slower because you're in a motorhome and anyway, max travel for us was about 6 hours. We did have some days when we would have to push an 8 or a 10-hour day, or Nathan would try to drive in the evening and kind of through the night to try to get us somewhere with the small children. But I get horribly car sick, and if I try to sleep in the back while the car is moving, oh man, I would get so nauseous.
She was pregnant a good fair amount of that time, and or nursing pretty much continually.
But something that helped, so not exceeding 6-hour travel days with small children. The other thing that would help tremendously was somewhere during the 6-hour travel day, we would pick an epic park, like somewhere we're passing through. We would find, like, you guys know those sweet parks that they're just massive and they have all the cool things. And we would pick a park like that to go stop. Then I could make lunch. And then after lunch, we play hard, and then they can take a good nap and we're back on the road, and like nap while we're on the road. So anyway, that ended up just being a sweet spot for us while we were traveling with small children. It worked out really well, just having and giving them something to look forward to. They loved rolling. They loved it. And I would get them sometimes a new coloring book when we're going to really do long travel, several travel days or a new something. And to kind of help them have something to do while we're going, and just being creative, and letting them, the wonderful part about having a motorhome that I will say is being able to walk around, stretch your legs, go to the bathroom, make yourself a little tea, make yourself a little, I don't know, peanut butter and jelly sandwich, go back, sit down. Anyway, it was nice. It was nice. Traveling the RV is
really fun.
It's really fun. It's a great way. It really is a great way to travel. It really is.
Especially if you don't want to put up with all of the just, privacy violations and everything else that comes with flying. And that was kind of part of one of the big motivators for us, is we wanted to travel around the country, but we didn't want to have to be subjects to the TSA. We wanted the freedom of enjoying traveling. And that was kind of what spurred us on towards the Class A, was like the ultimate driving experience in that regard. And we were like, this will just be so much more epic. It was so fun.
Yeah. I was going to say what Nathan learned about rest stops, gas stations, and fill stations.
Oh, there's a culture. There's a culture there. Truck stops. There's a culture there.
We call them truck stops.
Truck stops. And you're an outsider there. Don't ever think you're part of that club. They'll make sure that you're not. You know what I'm saying? You're not one of us. You know what I'm saying? Some of them are pretty cool. Some of them are pretty sweet. I had one lady finally help me figure out how to navigate getting the other side of the pump to turn on, because I was too embarrassed and proud to admit that I had no idea how to get the other side of the diesel high flow. Diesel, if you guys don't know it, diesel tankers, like big semis and stuff, they've got these high flow nozzles that are like, an inch and a quarter size, just like, because they got to fill up 100-gallon tank. They're not going to sit around for 45 minutes while like Joe Bebsky over here on gas station pump number 3 is trying to fill up his truck with 28 gallons of diesel. They are super awesome. But navigating in and out of those truck stops, you guys, you have to be professional. You have to be there on time. You're on a mission. You're not dawdling around. You're not sitting in there. You're not like wasting time. Like, these guys, literal time is money for a lot of these guys, and they are in a hurry to get places fast. So don't dawdle there, and be respectful. Be respectful, get your business done, and get out of there. You know what I'm saying? It's like there's a whole culture there that you got to understand, learn how to navigate that. It's highly effective. But I'm like high energy, very intense, focused, going in and out of gas stations, because that's the most likely place for stupid accidents to happen. It's a reality. It takes place there. You're thinking of something in particular.
No, just like we had, you have to learn the propane refill places. And then
I had a guy, a total newbie, try to refill our propane. And I tried to cheer him on. I was like, you got this, bro. He's like, my boss, he showed me yesterday, And I'm like, no problem, bro. You got this. You got this. I'm like watching him hook it up. I'm like, oh, we're screwed. We're so screwed. But I need propane so bad. I don't care. I'm like, so what? Maybe a catastrophic explosion. I go out in a freaking fireball. It'll be beautiful. I was so desperate for propane refill. I didn't care. I was like, let's do this thing, bro. You got this. You got this. You got this. He's got YouTube pulled up on his phone, and I'm like, oh boy. Oh, this is not good. And I'm like, I better pull up YouTube too, just to be sure, because we better double check this thing. He tries to hook the thing on, and it's just spraying propane everywhere. And I'm like, fantastic. It was great. So propane refills is kind of what runs your life. Like, you have to learn how to find where are the places. U-Haul. Shockingly, U-Haul tended to be one of the places I could consistently find that had easy access for me to pull in with my RV and get topped off with the propane. But that was a really important thing. And we had a big tank. We had, I don't know, maybe a 75-pound tank. We had a really an unusually large tank for RV size, living on the side of my RV. That was critical. We also had a stove top that burned propane. That was another critical thing that you loved without even realizing it, because we didn't have the electric top burner tops. So nice. It was very nice, and one of the most important little things that we had in there.
I was going to just say another thing. So when you're boondocking, like I was talking about, conserving water, huh?
I'm just thinking of something.
Oh, conserving water while you're boondocking, because, you think, oh, we're going to leave this campground. Like, we're going to charge up our batteries. We're going to load up on water. No, you're not. You're not going to load up on water and drive. That is so heavy and not good for your rig. And so, like, we would only
had a 100-gallon fresh water tank. That's a lot. That's 800
heavy.
Pounds of extra weight. And that's a lot of extra fuel and a lot of braking. So like, you got to try to choose how much. You got to be conservative and reasonable. But That's real, just real stuff.
So you have to, if you're then going to have a couple nights of boondocking, you're like, okay, well, we can only go with X amount in our water tank. So you sometimes might need to fill up water, and you can fill those up at truck stops too, right? Like we would fill up our water tank sometimes at a truck stop or something right before we were going to go park for the night, just if we needed a little bit more water or whatever. But I also said camping sites, for stayovers only for a few nights. So this is when you're passing through, when you're traveling. If you're only going to stay for a night or two, pull through sites. Okay, don't go for the most scenic back inside. Okay, like especially with a tow vehicle, you want to leave your tow vehicle attached. Okay, like you want to roll out the next morning. Like you don't want to have to do all this backing in and navigating and unhooking and rehooking up. And anyway, pull through sites are amazing for when you're traveling. We also learned campgrounds with spacious sites were so much less stressful.
Yeah.
Okay, you can actually go when you're looking at campgrounds, whether they're state campgrounds or national campgrounds or just local campgrounds, regional campgrounds, whatever they are, you can go into their campground map and you can look at the sites that are available. And you can even look through Google Maps and be able to tell if the sites are spaced out a decent amount, because how we like to travel is we like to have space. We don't like to be right on top of each other. I mean, sometimes we had to stay at RV parks where we were like packed in there like a bunch of sardines, but that's just awful. We don't like to do that at all. So there's some amazing campgrounds. One of our favorite places was in Florida was regional parks. It was like a gem. We were finding amazing campgrounds. Their regional campgrounds were amazing. And actually Florida state park campgrounds are pretty cool too.
To the RV life.
Yeah, Florida loves travelers. But also we learned about, when we were in Texas, the US Army Corps of Engineers.
Corps of Engineering.
Yes, that was amazing. Look up those campsites. They're nice quality sites, usually with hookups
and less crowded
and very spacious sites, not crowded, and they're cheaper. They're like $20 a night, and you have water, power, and sometimes they'll have gray tank, sometimes they'll have a gray water, sometimes not. Sometimes you don't have gray water or sewer, but they have a dump site in the campground, so you might be able to get by without dumping your tanks.
Or you sneak out in the middle of the night at like 1 to 2 in the morning, and you run that hose way over into your neighbor's yard and just let her buck, sneaky style.
Another I'm just going to list them out. Okay, so Campendium was another one we used. Different RV forums or RV Facebook groups or whatever. Hip Camp was another one that had some cool sites. We also had a horrible site that was so narrow we couldn't fit our RV through the gate, and we were like, well, now what do we do?
That was crazy.
That was super lame. So anyway,
we drove like 45 minutes to get to this place, and then we go to pull into it, and we're like, I cannot fit through here.
Yeah, that was ridiculous. So anyway, so Hip Camp, just make sure you really can fit your rig in there. Equestrian campgrounds.
Oh, those were fun.
That's like a gem. Like you wouldn't think equestrian campgrounds unless you have a horse trailer you're pulling behind you and you're going to go horseback riding or something. But
they let us in.
They let you in, and they have roomy sites, and they have nice campgrounds. So anyway, equestrian campgrounds were awesome. Campgrounds, let's see. Oh, our favorites were the first come. So I would go to the state park websites and I would type in the search bar, first come, first serve campgrounds. And it would give you a list of all the campgrounds in the area that were first come, first serve. And the reason those are the best, because if you go early or midweek, you can stay up to 14 days in the first come, first serve sites. So once you actually have a site, which if you go early to midweek, you're more likely to get a site than if you go on a Friday night or on the weekend. You will not get a site. But if you go early in the week, you will. And then you can just hunker down and park in that site for up to 14 days if you want to. So that's kind of cool. That was pretty cool.
Those are gems.
And then we have Walmarts. People are like, do you need a call ahead? Nope.
We never did. We never asked permission. We just asked forgiveness if it got real bad. We used Lowe's. Lowe's were good. Lowe's were generally really good too. Home Depots were pretty squared away. Bass Pro Shops.
Sam's Club.
Bass Pro Shops, Sam's Club, Cabela's. they all let you do it. You know, we did a lot of neighborhood, you know, covert camping. So I would get on Google Earth and I would look for cul-de-sacs, or I would look for areas where there's houses only on one side of a street, but the other side was open, you know, and we would pull in. Our plan was always pull in late in the evening after dinner time, pull the blinds and not be up for very long, sleep, and then peace out in the morning. That was how we got around it. And I don't think we were ever bothered in a neighborhood. I don't know if ever, but those were good options for us.
Other things that help make traveling easier is prepare meals the day before or the night before. Prepare meals for easy to eat meals for while you're traveling, or a meal that's already made, and you can just heat it up when you get there. So nice. Like, have the meal already done, because after a long travel day, you're not going to want to have to cook yourself a meal. Another thing we would do we would clean the whole rig.
Oh yeah.
And pack everything away the night before, or the whole day before. The whole day before we would leave, a lot of times we would gear up, cleaning, packing, organizing, getting ready for the travel day the next day. So literally all we would have to do, wake up in the morning, disconnect our hoses, bring up the jacks, put on the car, back out. It was so easy. It was amazing. What else? Let's see. I can't even read my writing. Oh, be careful parking under poplar trees or maple trees, because
you can have trees come down on your rig, son. So we were blessed miraculously by having a tree miss us by inches. It's like a third of a maple tree, big one, you know, like an 80-year-old maple tree. A third of it split and came down the night before we were going to leave this property. And it landed within inches of the back of our RV, our sleeping area. And it was like a big giant branch section of the tree. Yeah. And the other half fell on the other side of Gertie. It was, thousands of pounds. It would have crushed us. And that was a miracle, a literal miracle. I still have the spoon. I sent a piece of it to my friend and he carved it into a spoon, and I ate hemp hearts with it today. It's epic. It's a testimony spoon. So anyways, it's tiny little things like that make a big difference. I like that you said this, Turkey Barns.
Oh, no. I said be careful parking close to water. Okay.
Oh, yeah.
Because of flooding.
Yeah.
Okay. We just saw that in North Carolina. That's cray. And actually I remember when we were down in Asheville, there's a campground right on the French Broad River. And I remember Nathan and I were like,
we watched it almost flood into normal rain.
Yeah. We're like, that's such a beautiful campsite, but like, that is so risky living by a river, because you get these flash floods, and it's so risky. It's risky camping in mud. Oh my gosh. When we were living in Missouri, remember, and it was raining and we had to move campsites and there was mud,
That was bad.
And we were literally sliding down. Well, we hooked up with a chain to our friend's big truck, and he's like, I'm going to pull you guys.
He had a 7.3.
He's like, I'm going to pull you guys down here to your site because it's real muddy, and I think y'all are going to get stuck or you're going to slide, and I'm going to be able to be here to pull you. And so we were hooked on. We're sliding down the hill.
Where's the river?
Sliding. The river's right there. We're like sliding down the hill. He turns and I'm like, oh, we're like, just like, you're holding on for dear life. And then all of a sudden the chain gets hooked and she just goes, whoop! And she drifted. She drifted and followed him. And I was like, we were totally sliding down the hill. So anyway, be careful with mud. Be careful with sand. Okay. You see these people out on the beach camping. That's so risky, guys.
They're like, what was that? It's the what's the state park? It's like a 60-mile. It's the longest state park. It's like a 60-mile state park that starts off at Corpus Christi Island. Anyways, what is that thing? Oh, dadgummit, I'm gonna forget it. Anyways,
for all the bad.
Anyways, you can. It is like it is the most wild west of state parks that we went to.
It goes down into Mexico.
It goes right down, not all the way. It goes down towards Brown. Is it Browning? Dadgummit, I can't remember. It's a little late, but. Anyways, you enter in at Corpus Christi, and it's this very long beachway. And so it's kind of like this idyllic area where people will take their travel trailers or their fifth wheels or their RVs, and they'll drive onto the sand.
It's so tempting.
It looks so, because then you get this effect where you're like, bro, I'm parked on the beach.
On the ocean.
And when you open your window, it's like the ocean. It's so fun. It is. to this day, one of my favorite moments was parked there in that state park. And maybe it's a national park.
I think it is.
Anyways, we were there. We were
C-store.
there. Yes.
Something
Well
like that.
done. Anyways, it is. We got there during the shutdown. And so it was free. it was free. And it was straight vigilantes. Because they couldn't deny us. They couldn't allow us to not enter the park, right? They just couldn't charge fees. And so it was just a free for all. You know what I'm saying? And so we went and parked down there, and we
like
parked
10 days.
We parked not on the ocean side, we parked on the bay side. And but we when we were standing in our RV, it looked like the infinity, you know, like it was just like water. It was beautiful. It was so fun. Now, so there was no hookups now. So everyone was boondocking. So there's a lot of generators. And, you know, there's not a lot of generator courtesy when you got the loud neighbors whose generators are like all the time. You're like, okay, that guy, I'll remember you forever, you know, like, but there's guys who will pull out onto the beach and they will park on the beach at low tide. And then you will watch them and their entire rig sink into the sand, you know, and you're like, I backed out more than a mile off of a road because I was like, I think there's like a parking area here. It really looked like a parking area on the maps. And when I got to it, I was like, not a parking area, just sand, just a beach. And there were other fifth wheels out there and there were travel trailers. And I'm like, oh yeah, one could be persuaded to come on out and be seduced by the devil, be seduced by Satan straight into your death, son. And I was like, I've been in that mud before, man. I'm not going back. I'm not going back. So anyways, hard-earned lessons, as cool and as romantic as it is, just understand something. The sand is merciless.
I said, don't park next to turkey barns. It smells awful. It's not healthy for you. Yeah, and don't park near cell towers because
unless you need to upload.
You'll have a hard time sleeping. Yeah, I would have a hard time sleeping. Man, oh my gosh, it just keeps going, guys. I don't even know. Maybe
we should let's roll it into a part 2. Okay. I think we'll save the next 4 pages. Hey y'all, that's enough for now. You guys take a nice meaty bite of that. But we share this because we know some of you are sitting here right now, like hopefully not already into it. But if you are, there's plenty of pearls to pick up along the way. But there's a lot of our like good, bad, and ugly side of it. And we just would one of the best investments we made early on, custom sink cutouts that were cutting boards. Etsy. We found those on Etsy. Those are still we're using it today. Today, we don't have a proper countertop, so we've got that. We've got plywood instead. Yeah, I haven't got to that yet. Anyway. We are still using that thing as our countertop today. It's a champion. That was one of the best investments. Random last pearl. Tuck that away. Anyways, thank you all so much for coming on this journey. It's been fun hanging out late at night. Isn't that cute? I like you. It's great. I'm glad we got to hang out. I like you too. It's nice to not have to do this from an RV though. Like we're sitting at a desk, we both have a chair, and there's like, we don't have doors right now, proper doors when it comes to separating spaces. But you know what we have? We have a washer and a dryer in our midst. Like we have water, running water, hot water. We are blessed beyond measure. The Father has been so good to us to provide us a proper place to live. It is just a miracle. That's right. We have for almost 18 months now where we've got to live in houses. Like it's so nice.
It's the road life it's amazing, and it can be very wearying too, you know, but there's so many beautiful lessons that we had to learn and that we couldn't have learned, I don't think, any other way. Like the Father's just so good, and I'm so grateful for all that time and those seasons, and we have so many amazing memories, like good and bad and ugly and everywhere in between. And it was great. A sojourner's life is good. Very thankful. It is a good life.
Yep. We've been more blessed than anything to have met so many of the most spectacular people in our lives. We have got to receive some of the greatest generosity and hospitality that have just changed our perspective about what humanity is really all about. And it's restored so much of our joy in many ways. So thank you to all of you that were part of that journey along the way and supported us all throughout that journey. You guys are spectacular. And it's been wonderful that we got to go and meet many of you face to face. And we've just
gained lifelong friends
because of it
all over this country because of that. And that's a beautiful thing.
As much as we would love to still roll in and just park on somebody's property, it's really nice to be in a home too. We love it. We need it. It's good for us. Now, it would be amazing if we had an RV to still go and foray around one day. Y'all willing. Anyways, we love you all so much. Thanks for coming on the journey. Bye. You guys go live courageously out there. And if you are a sojourner, we love you. Mad respect. Hang in there. It's going to get good.